What is up, guys? So this year is nearing a close, so I thought I'd go over my favorite movies of the year. I thought this year wasn't the greatest year for movies, but there was a couple that really stood out as being the best movies of the year. I'm only going to be looking at theatrically released movies, so no straight to DVD movies like the DC animated movies. Although even if I did include them, none of those would have made the list. This list may be a little different from yours, so if you disagree with it, let me know in the comments down below what your list is, and I'll be happy to hear it. And be warned, I will be going into spoilers in this video, so when I show a short clip before I talk about the movie, pause the video and skip to the end of the mini review. But all these movies came out months ago, so if you haven't seen the movies, you probably don't care about spoilers, so either way, it doesn't really matter. With all that in mind, let's go over the top 5 best movies of 2017, in my opinion.
Last 1 hour without me.
Fuck you! Eat my ass! That's what she said!
Suspects are on the roof.
No, odds in that, Joe. Just gotta find a more intelligent way.
Number 5 is The Hitman's Bodyguard. So I didn't know about this movie at all until I saw the trailers, and before I did see the trailers, I thought I probably wouldn't be that interested. But after watching the first trailer, I was instantly hooked. It looked hilarious, and the movie turned out to be just that, hilarious. I understand if you don't like this movie because the humor is very vulgar and crass, but I find that very funny sometimes. Like, in this movie, it's done really well, and I just find it hilarious. Deadpool and Nick Fury, Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson were both hilarious in this movie, and they bounced off each other really well most of the time. This movie wasn't revolutionary or anything. Like, the acting is mostly fine, the plot is a little convoluted and messy, and the villains are kind of wasted, but there weren't a lot of movies that entertained me quite like The Hitman's Bodyguard did. It was basically pure comedy and action, with also some characters in there that are just pretty great characters, like Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson, and in that respect, it worked really well. The action scenes were mostly great. Again, nothing revolutionary, but just generally great and entertaining. And the movie was, like I've said before in this video, very funny. And that's the main reason we watch movies, isn't it? To be entertained. Sure, it would have been nice if the movie had a better plot, and it could have been a little better, but it's honestly mostly forgiven because of how entertaining The Hitman's Bodyguard actually was.
I see.
How good to see you again so soon.
Number 4 is John Wick Chapter 2. Unlike The Hitman's Bodyguard, this movie is pretty revolutionary, or at least the series is revolutionary in terms of action. The fight scenes are off the charts in this movie. It has some of the best choreography I've ever seen in any movie or TV show, and the clever ways they incorporate anything John Wick has around him and can find and just get his hands on into a fight, like a pencil specifically, is incredible. This movie just had some of the best action/fight scenes I've ever seen, and the movie's basically only rivaled by the first one in terms of action, because it's some of the best action in any movie ever, and that's the main reason I love it so much. But that's not the only thing John Wick 2 has going for it. Keanu Reeves is really great, the plot is pretty great, and this movie does a great job at building the world of John Wick more than the first one did, because it ended in a pretty ambiguous cliffhanger that makes me a lot more interested in where they are going next with this series. The only thing I didn't like about this movie is the villain. He was pretty annoying, and I know you're supposed to hate villains, but I really hated this guy, and not in a good way, not in a way that I wanted him to win or anything, which I think is a good villain. A good villain is one that has a point, but this guy, on the other hand, was just annoying. But other than that, the movie was really great.
Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
Rose, we got...
Number 3 is Get Out. I'm not usually a fan of horror movies, but every once in a while one comes out and I'll watch it with a group of friends, and this one I really loved. It started out as a social commentary on mild racism, and a pretty good one at that, and then it slowly started becoming a horror thriller, and the way it slowly started becoming a full-blown horror movie was brilliant. Just dropping hints here and there with the Armitage family acting really weird and having those slight bits of racism in them that they don't look like bad people. They just look so creepy because of it. And that guy talking about the deer, it was just, the family was really creepy. And then there was also the obvious one where Chris went into the sunken place, which was a really interesting scene, and having a brief jump scare or two here and there. I just really loved how the movie slowly became a horror thriller by dropping hints and not making it too obvious at the beginning. But once you know everything and you understand all of the hints they dropped, you think back and it becomes one of those things where you think, how did I not see that coming? So it was just such a brilliant thing that they did with the whole movie. And on top of that, this movie was hilarious. Specifically Rod, the TSA guy, he was just so funny with all those TSA jokes. But in general, I really like this movie because it's unique, unpredictable, it treats you like an adult, which granted I'm not actually one, but it doesn't straight tell to your face what's about to happen or why something is happening. It doesn't explain to you the twists and turns because it lets you figure it out on your own, which I really like. It also has some really scary moments and creepy moments, and on top of all that, it was pretty funny too, which I guess you can expect from one of the members of Key and Peele.
Sup, guys? Wait a minute. You guys aren't the real Avengers. I can tell Hulk gives it away.
Number 2 is Spider-Man Homecoming. When Tom Holland debuted as Spider-Man in Civil War, I absolutely loved him in the role. We saw him for 15 minutes, and I already knew he was the best Spider-Man we've ever seen in live action form, and also the best Peter Parker, just from the couple minutes that we saw him. So it was no surprise to me that Spider-Man Homecoming was good, but I honestly didn't expect it to be as good as it is, especially with all the weird castings in pre-production like Flash Thompson, although he actually turned out to be pretty great because he was a more realistic take on a bully, or at least a more modern day take, so it turned out that I actually really liked him in the role. But like I said, Tom Holland was an amazing Spider-Man in Civil War, and he was even better in Homecoming. He perfectly embodies what Spider-Man should be, which is an awkward, quirky, funny guy who doesn't really know what he's doing most of the time, which Tom Holland perfectly embodies. Michael Keaton was an amazing villain. He was such a great Vulture, but he was an even better Adrian Toomes. The Vulture was scarier without his mask and suit, which is a pretty great testament to how great an actor Michael Keaton was in this movie. But the Vulture was actually the best MCU villain we have ever seen, which isn't like a great thing to be, just because the MCU doesn't really do great villains most of the time, but there have been some pretty great ones, and the Vulture is hands down the best because of how great Michael Keaton is as an actor. But even when he's suited up, he's pretty great, just because of his motivation and his backstory were so sympathetic that you actually sort of side with him a little bit, but end up not siding with him because he's the bad guy and Spider-Man is the good guy. I also really like that twist where it turns out that he is the father of Liz Allen, or Liz Toomes, I assume that's her name now. It was a really unexpected twist that I think a lot of people have been praising, and I agree with them. It was a pretty unexpected, pretty great twist. This movie was one of the funniest Marvel movies ever, and it didn't really feel like it tried, and the action in Homecoming was great. It was nothing spectacular or anything, but still pretty great. To me, Spider-Man Homecoming is, and I mean this seriously, by far the best Spider-Man movie ever, and one of the best MCU movies ever. Before I get to number 1, some honorable mentions are Wonder Woman, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Justice League.
I would keep myself. I would find.
And number 1 is Logan. You'd probably find Logan at the top or near the top of every end of the year top 10 movies of the year lists, and for good reason. Logan is incredible. The action in Logan was so amazing. It really used the R rating to its advantage because the action was brutal and bloody, and seeing Logan just tear through all those people is something that I've wanted to see for a while now, because Wolverine has been in the PG-13 world for 16 years now, and we haven't seen more than a little bit of blood in any of his fight scenes or anything like that. But here in Logan, they go full out on the blood, and it is amazing. Logan's just jumping from guy to guy, and he's in berserker mode and slicing up people. And it's not only Logan either. It's also X-23. Her fight scenes are brutal, and awesome as well. And she's probably the breakout star of the movie. She is a great character. Logan is the last movie Hugh Jackman is ever going to play Wolverine after 17 years of playing the character in 9 different movies. And Logan the movie was the perfect send-off to the character, with the exploration of Wolverine in his old age, like the Old Man Logan comic, and then the eventual death of Wolverine. It was done in a way that was emotional and felt right for the character and the universe. Logan was the first good movie I saw in the theaters this year, and ever since then I've waited for a better movie to come along, and some movies came close, like Spiderman Homecoming, but no movie came out that was as good as Logan, which is why it is the best movie of 2017. So, those are my top 5 favorite movies of 2017. Let me know what your favorite movie of 2017 was in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.